Welcome to the VarsityKansas.com Big Show. I am Joanna, Chadwick of the Wichita Eagle and VarsityKansas.com. And we are taping here on Tuesday of State Championship Week. I'm going to cover golf today. We've got state softball, state baseball, state soccer. But Don Steffens is here to talk about state track, the biggest event in the state. And it'll be Friday and Saturday, and we're hopeful for no rain.
Well, we are hopeful. It's my favorite 2 days of the entire year. I go to a lot of track meets, but this is still number one. And I'm hoping that I don't care about the rain as long as the lightning stays away.
Exactly. Then we can continue because we can run this track meet in the rain, can't we?
Sure. A lot of meets have been. They've been dodging rain. I was at a regional last weekend. There were sprinkles on and off. I was at the Missouri Valley meet 2 weeks ago. They were dodging weather situations. In fact, last week, regionals, several of them moved a day early to avoid the proposed rain on Friday, and I think they all made a good move.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what happens here, because it wasn't all that long ago that lightning is what caused an early end to the state championship, and it was in those 4x400 relays.
Yes, it was. I don't recall which year it was. It's been a number of years ago, but a big storm came in during the 200s. There was a threat of tornadoes. Paul Pierce of the High School Activities Association, we'd been warning the crowd this could happen anytime during the meet, and finally as the 4x4s started, he had to call the meet, and everybody had to scatter, go into the Levitt Arena at that time or other places of safety because there was a threat of tornadoes. And it lasted for a couple of hours, as I recall, and they ultimately had to decide that the preliminary times from Friday is what they would use to assign results to for Saturday's finals. And it truly affected one state championship. I think Hayes was involved somehow, and I don't recall how it went because I really don't follow the team scores very much. But I know one team was very happy and one team was very sad. So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing where, we've been talking too about this is where prelims, which, hey, I'm just going to qualify. You need to be taking these prelims just as seriously because it could be your final time.
Yes, it could be. The lead runner, jumper, or thrower needs to be very careful. A few years ago, again, it was at a regional meet, a guy named Ed Brocksterman, who ultimately became an All-American at K-State and made a U.S. Olympic team in the high jump. He decided to pass up to a higher height in the regionals. By the time he got to that higher height, it was pouring rain. He missed all three and didn't go to state. And I think it was his junior year, maybe his senior year. But this weekend, everybody needs to be very careful from the get-go. So.
Well, let's talk about, one of the things, the reason why I love having Don come in is that he and Carol Swenson are such track gurus in the state of Kansas. You know that if you've ever been in state track, you've heard Don's voice. You know you've heard him. He has been there for, well, you know what? Since the Stone Age. Let's just go with that, right?
Well, as long as they don't throw the stones at me, I'm fine, Joanna. It's been a long time. This is 41 years for both Carol and I, and there's no one meet that's better than the other. We always have a great time at them. In fact, last year was interesting because on Saturday, I turned around and yelled at somebody as I was walking up the concourse, and as I did that, I choked on a little piece of probably donut. That's what I always eat at the meets, but I choked on it. I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk for an hour and a half. And luckily, I've got my good friend Carol, and he came down and sat on the scaffolding with me, and it was just wonderful because to sit with him, he's the guy that's responsible for all the statistics and for the flow of the thing. And I might get anxious and want to do a track event. He gets started on his field events, and he introduces all of them. He doesn't care what I want to do, which is awesome. He is the best. He is a wonderful, humble guy, and he's the state of Kansas from many aspects, as you know. He runs the press box in football state tournament games, in basketball tournament games. He helped organize the wrestling state tournament back when they started it, and Carol is awesome.
I would agree. He is definitely one of my favorite people. But why don't we start talking, and let's start with the bigger classes and move on down to the smaller classes.
Okay.
You know what? Before we do that, let's just start off with there's people we need to be watching for, isn't there?
There are quite a few, and I'll have to compliment the Eagle. They did a wonderful job of summarizing some of the top events to look at in all the different classes.
Yep, that ran Sunday. You can see it at VarsityKansas.com. That was Taylor Eldridge. He loves his track.
Yes, he did a really nice job. There were some things that I may need to correct a little bit, but for the most part, 99% it was awesome. And in fact, I've got it right here with me to use as reference today. So thank you, Taylor.
All right.
So,
Well, who do you want to start with then?
well, I hate to start with the negative, but we're going to be missing one of the great sprinters in Kansas high school history. That's Joe Regan of Topeka West. He's had a hamstring problem. He's a senior. I think he's won 3 straight in the 100. And sadly enough, he's not going to be here because he just can't run. And he's been a great talent. He's set up in the press box a few times when I've been at the Topeka Seaman meet, and he's a wonderful young man. He's very astute. He follows the sport. He knows what's going on out there. And I think he could be a good TV commentator at some point in the future.
Great.
But Joe
is a loss.
Yes, it is a great loss. And the other one, of course, is a local guy, sort of Jeff Ost of, is he from Andale?
Yep.
He was a nationally ranked javelin thrower until he tore something midway through April. And he's coming back. He'll be a factor, but he won't be in the 226-foot range in the javelin throw as he had been back in April and is one of the nation's top javelin throwers.
Now, he tore his UCL, so he's going to be having Tommy John surgery. I will have a story on him that will be on varsitykansas.com Thursday and in Friday's Wichita Eagle.
And apparently they can come back from that like pitchers do, they almost become stronger,
Yes.
better afterwards. So some of the big 5 and 6A people there's a local one, Brianna Eccles, who is a good story. I asked you a few minutes ago if she's related to Reverend Reuben Eccles of Wichita. Reuben was a state champion, I think, in the hurdles, and his brother was a classmate of mine at East High and was a high jump state champion and a hurdle place winner and a super guy. And I hope Brianna has a great weekend because she is, I think, undefeated and is the state leader in both the long jump and triple jump and has a good chance at setting a state meet record. I think she's been over 19 feet and is just an inch or so away from the high school record in that event. And she's a real talent. Another 5A, I believe she's 6A.
Yes.
A 5A talent is a young man from Leavenworth, and Leavenworth just happens to have 2 great athletes this year. Actually 3, and the third one is an up-and-comer. But the first one is Willie Morrison. He's I've got to pick up my notes here and see if I can read them. But he ranks number 2 all-time in the state of Kansas in the shot put at 68.11. And coincidentally, the state meet record holder in both of his events will be there. Clint Johnson was the state champion for Shawnee Mission South back in the 70s, went on to be an All-American at KU, and is now coaching at Shawnee Mission South, and his alma mater. And Willie's also a state leader. He ranks number 13 all-time in the discus at 192.5. And then along with him, who will be coming to Wichita State this year, is a long jumper, the state leader. He's ranked among the top half a dozen or so in the U.S. this year at 24.6. He's number 14 all-time in the state of Kansas. Now, the other interesting name there at Leavenworth is a young lady who's the state leader in the 100. Her name's Erica Lister. Just happens that her brother, Melvin Lister, was a state champion, long jump, triple jump, also an Olympian, 2 times an Olympian, Melvin Lister. So his little sister, I'm sure she probably hates hearing about him, but it is a true fact. He was an Olympian, a state champion, and Leavenworth has this great history of jumpers and sprinters. They've had some great athletes down through the years, and it's always a great thrill to watch the kids from Leavenworth. Another 4A school. Now, the 1 through 3A kids start in the morning on Friday with their preliminaries and their field events. And then in the afternoon, the 4, 5, and 6A kids start. So one of the top field event 4A groups to watch is the Winfield kids. They've got a young lady named Courtney Griffiths, who's ranked number 3 in Kansas and number 2 in 4A in the 800 at 218.31. And just happens there's another runner in 4A named Callie Logue. Her dad was a state champion, Matt Logue.
Okay. And
she'll be running here for Girard. Girard always has a few people that are outstanding. Southeast Kansas is very strong this year. Callie Logue's one of them. I don't remember what high school her dad went to, but I believe he was a state champion. And she's been fairly dominant, has a faster time this year than Courtney Griffiths. And I think Courtney last year qualified to state in all 4 sprints, 1, 2, 4, and 8. And there was one other significant name in Kansas history who did that also. It just happens that Jim Ryan's daughter, Heather Ryan, qualified to state in all 4, 1, 2, 4, and 8 as a senior after having been homeschooled her entire life. So she had a little bit of the Jim Ryan genes in her, didn't compete in high school track as long as her dad did, but she was something. Winfield, and then there are other, Courtney Griffiths is from Winfield, and the boy distance runner there has a chance, and this is kind of a segue into him because Jim still ranks among the top distance runners of all times. His converted 2-mile time is a 9:00 something. And just to give a comparison, Riley Olson ran a 9:13 at the Kansas Relays this year to become one of the top distance runners in Kansas history. Now, Jim, as I recall, his 2-mile best was 9:11.5. And Riley, of course, then you convert it down because 2 miles is longer than 3,200. And so he's within 10 seconds, 12 seconds of Jim Ryan. It's a significant mark. I noticed another unusual statistic as I was looking that up, that among the all-time runners at 2 mile, the top 6 times, there are 3 from Shawnee Mission South, 3 from Wichita East.
Wow.
You know, it's just one of those oddities that you run into now and then. 6A marks, I didn't really come up with a whole lot of things to discuss here today, and I apologize. But there is one girl who's significant that's 5A, and it happens to be my high school, Andover High School. Jalen Agnew was nationally ranked. Agnew, is it?
Agnew, yep.
I'll tell Carol because I don't want to make that mistake. But she won state as a freshman and has each of the 2 successive years. She was nationally ranked as a freshman. She went 5'10", I think, both as a freshman and a sophomore, and was ranked nationally. Might mention, I guess I missed one guy in Leavenworth. I forgot to mention that the long jumper, he's nationally ranked, and he's maybe I did it. I'm just getting old, Joanna.
You're doing a great job.
But Bellardo is coming to Wichita State. Jared
Yes.
Bellardo.
Well, talking about Jalen Agnew, though, is that, this is a girl who's going to Creighton for basketball. She's an outstanding athlete. She was an all-metro volleyball player. I mean, she's just incredibly talented, and she's continued this for her entire career.
And sadly, I don't think Creighton's got a track team. So
She would do well. She would do well if they did.
Maybe the volleyball coaches will look at her, and I'm sure she could contribute there. In my days as having a track club, our whole goal was not to make people into stars. Our job was to make them better athletes. And we recommended to everybody that they try every sport in the world because track might help football, football might help track, volleyball might help track, and track may help volleyball. So everything I just want to see, I'd like to see her name in lights sometime as a great basketball player. One of the great half-milers in Kansas history was from Carroll, and she went on and did basketball at a junior college because she wanted to be a star. Well, it didn't go beyond junior college, and she was a 2:12 half-miler and could have been a great track athlete, I think, but it was her decision to go elsewhere, and I would go watch her play basketball if I could, because I wanted to see how she did at that sport. So I consider all those sports minor sports, of course, football, basketball.
Track is your major sport.
Track is the major
like that.
sport. It's a sport, the rest of them are games. So,
I like it.
but some of the other people to watch here, Kurt Lowenstein of Mill Valley is the state leader in both 800 and the mile, and he could turn in some significant times this week. And Mill Valley's got a nice, strong program going. A guy that was the athletic director, Matt Bohm of Cheney, led that thing up there at Mill Valley. Now he's at a school in the 6A division, and he did a great job there. Breanne Eccles, some of the things I noted here, Joanna, she's ranked number 1 in the long jump at 19.6, and I think just an inch or 2 off the meet record. And she won the triple jump 2 years ago and the long jump last year. So she's got a gold in each and going for gold in both this year. So she will be fun to watch. Some of the smaller schools in 1A, only I would watch this name probably, McClure. because his dad was a state meet record holder and a state champion, John McClure. He had two boys running at state a couple years ago, and now Derek is the last one, and he's got a chance of winning. And but it won't be easy because there's a guy named Caden Calloway who's been a state leader at one time or another for the last couple of years from Pike Valley, and he's a 1A school, so it could be a great race to watch. The pole vault, a 6A person's involved there. I always wonder if her dad was the former chief of police here, but she's from Blue Valley West, and Blue Valley West, I don't know, is it 6A, 5A?
That's one of those ones that kind of moves up and down. I'm not actually sure this year.
Yeah, she's number
I'll look it up later.
three all time, and I can look at Carol's list here real quick and tell you.
Can do that.
I can do that, but Christine set a number 3 all-time mark at the Shawnee Mission North Relays, and I happened to see her do it. And there's another young man who's very exciting. His name's De Leon. He goes to Mies. That's I think down to 4A school. And they had 2 great vaults there. Lemunion is a Carol doesn't list 5A. 5A. So there's two schools there that'll be fun to watch. And as you know, I like to get the crowd involved in the high jump and the pole vault because they like to clap together and help these kids along. There might be a lot of that this year because Lemunion's very good. And it just happens that some of these vaulters, and I don't know who exactly, so I won't mention names, but they vault with, work with Rick Attic, who's the great pole vault guru. At one time when he was coaching early in his career, he had 4 boys. I think it was over 15 feet in the pole vault. Went on to have All-Americans at KU and at Nebraska. Now he's back coaching at, I believe it's at Olathe South, I believe it is. But he was at the regional I was last weekend. So there could be some great vaulting with him back in the mix there and having kids that he's been able to affect down through the years. So watch Christine Lemunion of Blue Valley West and De Leon of Bishop Mies. They could do some fun things. And that's a lot of the top kids.
Well, speaking of pole vault, one of the things I want to mention is that VarsityKansas.com Skills Day, we do track is one of the things that we offer, and Dennis Frazier from the Wichita area, he'll be doing the pole vault again. There's nothing better than watching him flip some first grader up. It's fascinating, and then they come away from that and they absolutely love that sport, and that's why I think that sometimes we don't necessarily want to try the pole vault because it is kind of frightening.
There are some danger factors involved, and even vaulters at the top level get injured.
Sure.
And the potential is there, and I'm sure that's part of what attracts people to watch it. Also, the fact of flying. I mean, the fact that these kids don't just hold on to the pole and drop over the bar. They have to actually release and push themselves up over the bar. And it's an exciting event. Now, the high jump's also got some great people in it. Now, that's all just self-propelled there. And we've got a 7-footer and a couple of 6'10" guys, and it will be exciting to watch that.
Why do you think that Kansas does such a good job at getting these kids? I mean, we've got quite a few kids nationally ranked. And why do you think that this small state is able to do that?
I don't understand that. There was a time back in the 70s where Kansas had produced 5 or 6 of the nation's top pole vaulters, just like back in the 60s when Jim Ryan was running, and other people, not just Jim now, but Archie San Romani and some kids from North High. It just happened that all of a sudden we had a whole lot of great distance runners back then. I think it's just part of it, just like I mentioned Rick Attic. Rick Attic is a very good coach. And the coaches at both Wichita State and KU are both very good pole vault coaches also. So it has something to do with coaching. It has a lot to do with coaching. As you know, in basketball or football, a coach, look what's happened with Weston Sharts at West High. With their football program, who would have thought West High was going to be as good as they are? So that brings up another guy I forgot to mention that's from West High, a guy named Dominic Fonseca. I think is somebody to really watch at the collegiate level. He's a senior. He won cross country last fall from West High School. I never thought West High would produce a state champion, but here he is. He's nationally ranked in the steeplechase. I think he's going to Pitt State next year, which is a great program to go to, although I'd rather see him at KU, K-State, or Wichita State. Nothing against Pitt State. But I think he's going to be awesome at Pitt State. They have a very good national level program at Pitt State. Their coaching staff is excellent. He ran a 5:57 or 8 at the KU Relays. He's going to be tremendous to watch, and people should watch him. West High, I think, is 5A.
Yep. No,
And
actually, they're 6A.
They're 6A again?
Yep. And yeah, I wrote about him last year. He is a fascinating kid, just, very self-motivated too.
Oh, yeah, and he's talented. I mean, he has brought some stuff out of himself that I don't know that he knew he could do, and we need to watch him at the 6A level this year. There are some good distance runners, and if he can tag along, the best one is Stuart McNutt probably in 5A, and then Lovenstein in this Mill Valley 4A, or are they 5? I think they're 5A. So Stuart McNutt, but let me look at the 6A list. It's got some smaller schools at the top of it, but I think it's dominated by 6A kids, and Lowenstein is 5A. But there are among the top 10 that Carroll lists, 6 of them are out of 6A.
Wow.
So that should be,
race.
it could be a great race, and he will be challenged, but at the same time, I think he's capable of winning it. And Michael McGarr is of Manhattan. I think they won state 6A cross country last fall. He has there's a family, McGarr I'm probably mispronouncing that. But they are very good, and it should be an exciting race between Fonseca and some of the kids from the northern part of the state. So,
Would you like to see the state add steeplechase to the state
Yes.
track meet?
yes. Why? Because it's an Olympic event. They did the same thing with the women's pole vault. They let the kids develop it in enough schools. It has to be done in enough schools, I think, to really make it competitive. But in the women's pole vault, then it became an exhibition event. And as an exhibition event, they let that happen for a couple of years. And now it's been a great event, and we've got great women pole vaulters here in the state of Kansas. I want to tell you a story about one of them. She's on the Christy Lehman of
She was
Heston.
yeah.
Heston. She was a good vaulter and a state gymnast champion in the all-around. Was helping her dad cut down a tree as a sophomore, I think. Tree fell on Christy, and it broke her back. She had a broken back and a full body cast for a couple of years, just happened to heal properly. She went to school at Nebraska, became a Big 8 champion, and went on to be an All-American at Nebraska. And it's a great story, and she's a wonderful young lady. She actually helped me announce a couple of years at the Big 8 meet because she was in a cast.
Wow.
So I have no excuses. She did. But she was a great example to follow what can happen. So I think the state has to, and I see barriers at more and more tracks as I travel around. It's in more and more meets. I think that I hope it will become an event. I've never asked the high school activities people about it, but I think it's an event that needs to come. And one of the great videos at the Kansas Relays is they show a race, a collegiate race, maybe it's a high school race because they've had it there for decades. And it shows a girl who literally went totally under and came back and finished strongly and ran well. And it just goes to show that you can persevere. And, of course, there's all the comments about taking a bath and getting wet and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully it will come around as a high school event here in the state of Kansas.
What do you feel like when you look at the state track meet as a whole? What really does make it such a special event?
Well, I think just what we've discussed here, the fact that a 1A guy or a 1A girl, I think Heston was maybe 2A at the time that Christy was jumping, can compete with the big school events and maybe beat them. There was a girl named, her last name was Frost from Borough White Rock. I think it was a 1A school. Brenda Frost. She was like 5'1". She went to the Kansas Relays, hammered them all the 5A schools, the 6A schools, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Texas. She beat them all at the Kansas relays and came back to be a state champion. So I think it's that kind of thing, that the excitement you get. It used to be that was the track. The track at Wichita State was probably better than some of the kids in some of the other schools had a chance to compete on. Well, there's good tracks all over the place now. But the crowd excites, the competition excites. The kids have become, if you look through Carol's list, you'll see a lot of 1 and 2A kids sprinkled, and 3A kids sprinkled among the top 10 in every event just about. And so that indicates that they're getting better coaching out there. The kids are trying it. And they have competition from other events too, like baseball is, soccer is everywhere. And some of the smaller schools, track is still the main event in the springtime. They may play baseball in the summer, softball in the summer, but they still primarily do track in the spring as a sport. And the marks are good. There are state meet records challenged every year, like you just said. And it rotates around through different events. But that's why I like to announce there, and why Carol does, is I think we can bring out, and what Taylor did in his piece, is he really brings out what are the great events here to watch. And it used to be in the 70s when Carol and I started that we would put together a list like that and put the times when to watch for these people and put it all kind of in perspective, because we didn't have computers that could put together these great lists like we can now. What used to happen in the 70s is Carol and I would get together this week of state meet. We would borrow all of the small town newspapers we could from the Eagle and come down and make our own top 10 list for every class. And we would come down, and I was working at the Eagle some then, and they would allow us to come down, use the computers, and put together a top 10 list that now is quite not easy. Carol works very hard at it. But it was a real chore. And so we feel put into perspective what quality marks there are, not just in terms of the top 10 list, but in terms of the 1A, 2A, 3A, through every class. We can hopefully put into perspective the importance of each mark. And as a parent, both you and I know that if your kid is 14th at the state meet, that's important. And we try to even mention those folks. We try to announce every kid's name. Last night I was going through the qualifiers, the heats, and listing where they qualified or where they placed last year at state. And I got to 8th place, and I thought, wait now, that's only half the kids. And so I went back through ticker timing and pulled up the non-placers and wrote down their places also, because they're just as important.
That's right. And then we get to see them all. That's what's so awesome.
Yep.
Well, Don, thank you so much for coming here and taking your time. And I hope that you enjoy this yearly visit from Don. He's a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much, and enjoy Friday and Saturday.
Thank you, Joanna. I think that even if there is bad weather, towns respond to this. I'll bet there'll still be, if it's raining, 15,000 people in the stands Saturday. So should be a great weekend. So
we hope to see you out there. Thanks for watching the VarsityKansas.com Big Show with Joanna Chadwick and Don Steffens.